press club last year, I'm sure you remember, you spoke about supply-side reform and Thatcher and Reagan type policies. You told the Coalition Party Room in June last year the next election would be about limitless providers versus enablers. I'm going to borrow the vernacular of a former treasurer and say what is in the budget for the true believers, the true liberal believers, the ones who believe in a reforming Conservative government who are better than the other mob at budget repair. What is the difference between a Liberal and a Labor government at the moment?
Well, this is a Liberal budget. Firstly, it stays true to the Menzies tradition of getting more Australians into home ownership. There's the First Home Super Saver scheme. There's the new measures that we introduced to enable single parents with a deposit as low as 2% to get into their first home. And of course, Home Builder has been an enormous success with more than 120,000 applications. This budget supports retirees. Remember our political opponents, you referenced Labor, having a retirees tax. This budget is enabling retirees to put more money into superannuation by downsizing their home at age 60, not 65, and putting up to $300,000 into their super. It's abolishing the work activity test for someone aged 67 to 74. We've also supported the regions with record amount of support, whether it's infrastructure that's transport or water infrastructure or better telecommunications connectivity, particularly in bushfire-prone areas, as well as biosecurity and our Ag 2030 project. The support for families with the tax cuts, because it's only been the coalition, Andrew, that has delivered around $300 billion of tax cuts in the last 4 budgets, and as I said earlier, has put in place a historic reform to abolish a whole tax bracket, the 37 cents in the dollar tax bracket, to flatten out, to strengthen, to create a fairer tax system. And at the heart of this budget is the concept of backing the private sector. I said it in my speech last night. 8 out of every 10 jobs in Australia are in the private sector. And we want the private sector to feel confident to invest, to hire and to grow. That's what the business investment incentives are about. That's what the loss carryback measures are about. That's what measures like regulatory change around the AAT and the ATO are all about. So this budget stays true to the Liberal Party's values and principles, but it also responds in the middle of a pandemic. And again, if you want to quote doyens of the Liberal Party, whether it's Menzies, it could be Howard, as Australia's second longest serving Prime Minister. And as he said to me very clearly, at times of national crises, there are no ideological constraints. And if I walk into the wilderness one day and know that I've done my small bit to help a generation of Australians avoid long-term unemployment, what the economists call the scarring of the labour market, I will be proud of that. And it's not about me, it's about them. And the fact that we have seen 500,000 jobs being created since the last budget alone, the fact that the unemployment rate today is lower than when we came to government at 5.6%, and the fact that Australia is the first major advanced economy to see employment levels above where they were at pre-pandemic is something that we can all be proud of, but we also know the job is not done, and that's why last night's budget was the Morrison government's plan to lock in the recovery and ensure Australians are all better off.
Sarah Martin.